I love creating spaces that people feel a sense of belonging to. And it's not just in the design, it's also in the offering, the food. That means a lot to me.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Canberra's hospitality landscape has evolved over the last decade thanks to a throng of new blood with their individual spin on hospitality. But today's guest has made a huge impact across the board, from catering to cafes and finer dining too. Tracy Keeley is the director of Lunetta Trattoria and Pollen in Canberra. Tracy, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to tell a little bit about our story and how we're very much engaged in the Canberra landscape around all things hospitality.
Well, your influence is actually quite amazing. And although you have those businesses now, there have been previous businesses in hospitality as well, and over many years. And the impact across the board, as I mentioned in the intro, is not just cafes, but finer dining. And it's pretty amazing. Tell us a little bit about the businesses that you have at the moment.
Well, we're lucky in that we own at the moment 3 businesses, and each one is located in a particular genre of hospitality. So we have the genre of cafes, and that's with Pollen Cafe, which is a beautiful, pretty cafe that's located in the National Botanic Gardens. And we've been there 8 years, going on 9 years. It's a very approachable style of a venue. And then we also have Lunetta Trattoria, which is more neighbourhood dining, casual, a lot of warmth and energy around that space. And then we also operate in another genre of hospitality, which is fine dining, and that's Lunetta Restaurant, which is kind of that special, iconic place where you would normally want to celebrate life's milestone events, such as proposals, special birthdays, friends coming together. So we're really excited that in each genre we have an opportunity for us to express our creativity and to bring about the elements that make hospitality something that's tangible.
Yeah, and it's not only do you have offerings in different categories, they're award-winning as well. Like Lunetta, particularly more recently, has caught the eye of restaurant critics and had much acclaim. What's it been like experiencing that?
Lunetta has been very much considered. We purchased the building 3.5 years ago, and we really didn't know what we were going to do there, but we had always loved this mid-century modernist building that sits high on top of Red Hill. So it's kind of like away but near at the same time. So we purchased the building, and then we needed to do some research and some development on the concepts around what we were going to do. So we ensured that we partnered with a lot of well-known and highly acclaimed people in the industry. So we started off with our architect and design firm, and they are the people from Acme, who are renowned for boutique design and architecture. We also worked with 2 agencies. One was New Initiative and the other one was Studio Bland. And particularly we chose agencies that were not Canberra based because we wanted to open up this new venue with a very much different perspective on what occurs in the Canberra hospitality scene. So we wanted some different minds at the table. And with them we really nutted out our brand, and we have the most beautiful brand that flows through not only the architecture and also the design elements within the space, but also there's so many layering, and it feeds back into that beautiful Canberra landscape of, the time when this building was built. It was built at the time of the Jetsons, where anything was possible. So that was the main muse, I guess, of what we wanted to imbue in this wonderful venture of ours. And I think Lunetta provides the opportunity for us to marry all those elements of hospitality. So that means, the design, we were really involved in that design. The food, we're very much involved in how and what that food is. Our beverage program is very much about the elsewhere, being there, but really you could be anywhere in the world. Our service is about that heightened excellence in guest experience. And then there's the beautiful atmosphere of what we are creating with all the touch points of things that you can see, but also things that you can't see, but there's an enormous amount of warmth. So for us, Lunetta is actually an expression of that creativity and that process of bringing together all those different elements.
It's amazing that you've got 3 venues in very different sectors, all doing incredibly well. I'm interested in the backbones and foundation of that. Are they treated differently, or are they treated independently, or is there a core that sort of goes into all of them? Like, how do you operate a cafe to fine dining and knock both of them out of the park?
I think we really focus on our values. What do we think are important? And yes, they are all very different entities within themselves, and they operate with their own, vision or mission. But the thing that ties them all together are the values of our company. So I am very fortunate enough to work with my 2 sons, Matthew and Nicholas, and we are a trio. We tackle whatever it is within the concepts of that trio. So yes, I am like the managing director, but I have 2 partners that I work with incredibly well. And the wonderful thing about being a mother, and also about, having that wonderful closeness in that relationship, is that everything gets discussed. Everything gets explored. No idea is the idea. We definitely brainstorm what we see as either the operational side of each business, because they all innovate and grow and change. But every aspect of each offering is really curated by Matthew, Nicholas and Tracy. And I think it's that element of there is actually a family behind these venues. They're not an arm's length. They're very much a part of our lives, so much so that that's all we do we just continually talk about our restaurants, and when we go out, that's all we talk about. So our partners are like, here we go again. But we're just so invested in it, and it's something that pulls our relationship together. And I think it's because of the success of that, we're able to engage like-minded people who value integrity and who value purposeful work, and who understand the importance of detail. And so we gather with those people, and I think that's how we achieve that success. It's that culture, but it's also the fact that we are very much enthused by it.
The Canberra dining landscape has evolved amazingly, particularly over the last 10 years. But how have you seen it change shape, and how do you feel about it now, the current form that it's in?
Yeah, look, it's I feel so optimistic about what we're doing, and especially the landscape in Canberra. I think people, more than anything, need places to connect and places to celebrate and places to come together and gather. And there's no better place to do that than at a table. And I think that I know that at each one of our venues, we see new people obviously coming through our doors, but we also see return guests who actually love what we do and love that connection to place. And I think, that idea of third place really makes an important statement in Canberra, because it is a working town. It's so therefore that idea of having a place where people can gather, I think is really vital. And when you consider the role of restaurants or the role of cafes within our communities, they're really about building culture and about breathing life into cities. So that's, I think, why I'm so optimistic about the Canberra scene. The other thing about Canberra that I love is that Canberra people genuinely appreciate it when someone goes out of their way to do something just a little bit different or special. They don't take that for granted. They don't take for granted the risk or the amount of energy or determination that's involved in that particular project or activity. And I think I've seen that time and time again in the many restaurants and cafes and kiosks and cafeterias that I've run. And that is, people genuinely can see when you're being authentic, when you are really wanting this to be an extension of yourself. So that's what I love about the Canberra scene. We are appreciated, and the people who work with us are also appreciated. The feedback that we receive is really heartwarming, and especially like what's occurred at Lunetta and also at Pollen and in my other venues. There's always been I always see it as an opportunity to reinvent something and to put a different spin on something.
Well, I want to explore where you're taking things with the three venues shortly, but take us back to when you were young. Whereabouts did you grow up, and was food a big part of your family growing up?
Yes, well, I guess food has always been part of that um, idea of connection. And I'm an immigrant to Australia. So my parents are Anglo-Indian. So I was born in India. And then when I was 9 years old, we migrated to Perth. And my father is one of 8 children. So we grew up with curries. So when I was 9 years old, this is in the 1970s, no, none of my aunties or uncles or my family, we had any money. So what we used to do most weekends is gather at someone's house, and there was aunties and uncles and cousins and second cousins and my nana and, all of this. And everyone, every auntie or uncle would bring their dechki, which is their pot of curry, and it on the table, and then their tiffin carriers of chutneys and pickles and different sort of accompaniments to the curry. And so these dishes were laid out on, a table, and then we had a spoon from everyone, and we got to know, what that particular uncle's signature dish was. And food was, because we had no money to go out as families, but food was the thing that brought us together. Food was what it was, and it was exciting, and it was entertainment, and people wanted, aunties and uncles wanted to share their recipe. So that was my recollection of how food is something that provides that glue to a family, because there would have been maybe, 60 people at someone's house. So it was like it was absolutely huge. And I think that experience shapes how I see hospitality today, because I'm wanting to try and recreate that same feeling of connection and gathering, and that, this all happens around a table.
Um, when was the first time you considered food as a career? I mean, was that the first avenue you went down?
Well, I got an interesting introduction to hospitality. So my line was not that I was a chef or I was a restaurant manager or, I had any experience in that field. But I am very interested in leadership. So my avenue into the past 30 years has been through entrepreneurship. And I was very fortunate in that I was trained as a school teacher, a primary school teacher. And with that, I was had the wonderful exposure to leadership courses. I actually completed my Masters of Leadership while I was teaching, and I had 1 year to go. And I remember completing that Master of Leadership. And the dean, I walked up the stage and, you have your little hat on and your cloak, and the dean shook my hand and said, so Tracy, what school are you going to be, principal of in the next coming years? And I said, well, actually, I've left education. I'm now an owner of a cafe in a government department building. So it was like, but I think everything you learn along the way helps you to be a better a better person or a better operator or a better leader. So a lot of what I learned was through that course. And then I love knowledge. I love learning. And so I also did a master's of, maybe 5 years later, a master's of human resources management, which was also incredible, to have that. So I think my pathway into hospitality has been that I was able to use some of my learnings in constructing systems and procedures and building teams and really contributing to the empowerment of other people. I strongly believe that my role and Matthew's role and Nicholas's role is to provide the infrastructure for people who are in this incredibly rewarding industry, and it has challenges and it has all those things going on, but it is really rewarding. But we provide the infrastructure for them to reach their potential. We provide the tools, we provide the financial management, we provide the in Lunetta and Lunetta Trattoria's case, the actual building, and we provide all those aspects of building a business so that they can actually do the work that they are so experienced in doing.
Take us back to that original cafe that you mentioned to the Dean when you went up on stage. What was it like? I mean, how did you find yourself in that position to running a cafe, and what was it like? Were there big challenges?
Yes. So I prior to that, my ex-husband and myself, we ran Cafe Momo together, and then we sold that, and then we went into club catering. So we ran the catering at West Rugby Club at Jamison. So that was weddings, 21st, a bistro. So we did that for a couple of years. And then I went back to teaching, and at that stage, my husband went into real estate. So I went back to teaching, but I was kind of itching to get back into being able to lead a little bit more. And also, I had a taste for hospitality, and I really liked it. I really liked meeting people, and I really liked that whole energy about a space and a room. So I love teaching as well, but this was just, I think it was just another step for me, different career move. So the cafe or the cafeteria at the John Gorton building at the Department of Environment came up for tender. So I thought, I'll have a go at that. I'll put my hand up. So we wrote this tender. And I wrote this tender, and it was really good. Like, it was a great tender, but I was kind of faking it, I had all these grandiose ideas about what I was going to do. And on paper, it sounded really good. And fortunately, they thought it sounded really good too. And I was awarded the contract. So I started that, and that was 5 days a week, early mornings up until about 6 p.m. at night. And the building hosted over 2,000 people. So it was a very busy cafe, high volume. So in the first 3 months, now this is 20 years ago, we were losing $70,000. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's a little bit more to running a cafe than what I thought there was. And so I kind of just thought, look, Tracy, you've got this experience, you've got the knowledge, you know how to learn, you know about growth. Stop listening to everyone, all the voices. Put your head down and start doing the work. Start getting the strategies, the systems, the procedures. Start doing the work that you said you could do. So once I decided that the buck stopped with me and that I was going to lead, the business turned around. And I became, if not for that experience of the fact that, that was a lot of money and probably our savings, if I hadn't have had that experience, then, and if I hadn't sort of, pulled myself up from the floor and said, come on, now's the time, I don't think I'd still, be in this position. So that's why I think it's really important that you do go through adversities, and especially in the beginning, you do make a lot of mistakes, but it's how you can problem solve out of those mistakes and really look at it in terms of, this is going to take some work. This is actually going to take some planning and take some considered thought. So yeah, that's how I got into that. And then I had the contract, I think for maybe 6-7 years. And then I really, another lesson, I just worked like crazy. I was there, I was taking the furniture out every morning. I was packing it up every evening. My sons at that age were probably, 14, 15. So I was also doing home and doing that. And so I burnt out, completely burnt out. And I didn't re-tender. And so I left that building and then I thought, well, I'm just going to go up to the Gold Coast and have a year to rebuild and repair. So I did that, but I ended up staying at the Gold Coast for about 4 years, and then my money ran out and I couldn't get a job. That's when I did my HR masters. I couldn't get, no one wanted to employ me. So I thought, well, this is great being up on the Gold Coast, but I really do need to get back to Canberra and establish my network again. And it was at that time that a book plate at the National Library came up for tender. And so I threw my hat into the ring for that and said, yes, I can do it. But I didn't actually realize how big the operation was. Like, it's huge. It's a full venue with weddings and cocktail parties, high-level cocktail parties, catering, and a very, very busy cafe. But when they were about to give me the keys, because I'd signed the contract, I won the tender, they said, oh, actually, it's gone into liquidation. So the previous operators went into liquidation, which was a very sad way to kind of end their wonderful tenure at Bookplate. Very sad. So they said, do you still want this? And I thought, oh gosh, like, it's worse than, so that there was Like it wasn't operating at the level that I thought it was, because I was actually going to go just kind of make everything the same, because I thought this is working. Why change it? So I said, yes, I want it. And so fortunately, my eldest son, Matt, said, hey, Mum, do you want some help? And I said, yeah, I think I really do need some help. Because also technology had moved on from when I had Cafe Envy. So I needed someone, a partner that understood modern dining and the ways of technology and how that can help with all that. So anyway, we started and we took it off, and we were getting nobody. Nobody was coming. We had to sort of have free coffee day just to try and get some people through the door, but no one was coming. So then I really needed to think, well, what's happened here? What can we do to change the mindset of that? And so we completely refreshed what Bookplate was. And there was a totally new fit out, beautiful new fit out, a new menu that was more in line with cafes not within a government institution, but cafes that were around at that time, with cook to order, the smashed avocado, that kind of thing, the chili scramble, all of those classic cafe dishes. So we needed to change the style of what was happening at Bookplate, because it was only attracting a particular demographic, which were the people who enjoyed that older, more traditional style of a cafeteria style offering. So we completely refreshed the menu, had this beautiful new fit out. We had florals everywhere. I had, it was styled. Every week it was this new beautiful style in that space. And we really honed in on the experience of, you can come here and you might not be doing any research in the library, but you can come here and you can celebrate family milestones. You can book a table. You can have a business meeting. You can have some wine. You can. So it was very much about reimagining that space. So yeah.
You mentioned about the family nature of your business and your sons and their involvement. What's it like for you working with them, and how does it make you feel that they're sort of creating, their careers in your footsteps as well?
Yeah. I feel a sense of pride. I really enjoy my son's company. And I value their contribution. And when we sit at the table and we have our meetings, what I really like is that we all are very, very different. We all come from a totally different perspective, and none of us are afraid to say what we actually think. So we all give our opinion to something. We let that sit, and then just through conversation, we end up with what we believe is right decision. So therefore, I don't think I could have that kind of organic relationship with other business partners. I think we have to work at it, because, like we are very familiar with one another. But it's that familiarity that actually is the strength, because I know Matthew, I know Nicholas, and they know me. So they know my strengths and my weaknesses. And I believe that the three of us compensate one another for our weaknesses, and the three of us are allowed to actually shine in our strengths. And we are very supportive of one another. We are very mindful of making sure that we cover one another so that the other person can have a bit of a break, or do something that they're passionate about, and then we'll carry that. But we'll always know that it'll be my turn, soon, because I'll need some help, So I think that life-work balance it's always been one of those hot topics, and rightly so, because especially when you're running your own business, everything matters. Everything matters. And everyone knows this. We all carry it around with us. We never let it go. And so to know that someone else is also there feeling that and involved in the same conversation, it's actually really, it's very, I guess, reassuring.
You've had tremendous success transforming spaces and creating new spaces as well in hospitality. What sort of advice would you have for operators out there that might be taking on their first venue and transforming an existing space and making it their own?
I think number one is brand. I believe you really need to say, what is this space or place or offering saying? What is it going to say? And if you have a very clear and concise definition of that, that then guides you through all other decisions. It's actually knowing because you can't be all things to all people. You have to stand for something, and you're not going to make everyone happy with your offering. It's going to appeal to a particular aesthetic. Might not appeal to a particular age or gender, but it definitely will appeal to an aesthetic. So it doesn't matter what gender or age they are. So it's working out that. So Pollen, with our current ones, Pollen has a very definite character. It's a very calming, it's almost like a home set amongst a garden, because that's what I had in my mind. I wanted to represent a home and a place where people feel that they can meet with their friends and family in a beautiful setting. And so therefore, I have a lot of items in that space that people would have in their homes. And so that's Pollen. And I wanted Pollen to be friendly and happy and a place that it's intergenerational, and people who value connection and being amongst nature. And then for Lunetta, there's a brand there that I really wanted a message that I really wanted to hone in on, and that is this is an iconic space. This and for Trattoria, but this building represents something for Canberra. So we're not going to just put in whatever cuisine we think. No, cuisine needs to actually tie back to the history of this building, and also the elements within that restaurant need to tie back to that era. So not be a museum of that era, but give a little nod to that era. So the whole theme around Lunetta is, where Lunetta in Italian means little moon. So our building has stood tall on top of Red Hill for over 60 years, and it's watched over Canberra and has been Canberra's little moon. So it's about that. It's about that, we're an escape without the journey. You drive up the hill and you could be anywhere in the world, and it's an elsewhere. So it's representing Canberra, but it's also representing other influences that have touched Canberra. So, the architecture of Canberra comes from a lot of different backgrounds and heritages. So it's about that. And I think that is what appeals to people. Yes, we have amazing food. Our chefs are, the best of the best. Our wine program is so curated and addresses the pairing with our food. Our service is very approachable, very attainable to capture. But it's actually about where we sit in the landscape, and having that custodianship of this building meant a great deal. So I think if I was advising someone who was starting off, it would be really find out what it is that your offering is going to speak about. What is it going to speak about? Because if it doesn't stand for something, then it's very hard for people to connect with it. And then it just becomes another cafe or another casual dining or another premium dining rather than something else.
Well, it's incredible what you've created. What do you love about what you do?
I love creating spaces. I love creating spaces that people feel connected to. And I've always loved this. Even as a little girl, I loved it. Like, I remember sharing a bedroom with my sister and changing the bedroom around so that it looked like the dining room and the lounge room. And this was, me at a little age. I've during my childhood, my parents and we had 18 houses. And then during my adulthood, I've had 18 houses. So I love creating home. I love my sons tease me because I am constantly looking at different styles and design and fabrics and colour and text. I love doing that. I love creating spaces that people feel a sense of belonging to. And it's not just in the design, it's also in the, the offering, the food, the style of the uniform. That means a lot to me. The way our people speak means a lot to me. The mutual respect between guest and server means a lot to me. So it's about that. That's what really inspires me, and that's why I'm constantly going out for dinner, for drinks, to cafes, because I just love seeing what other people have created, especially the ones that, you can see a personality behind or personalities behind an offering.
Well, Tracy, what an absolute joy to have you on Deep in the Weeds today. I can't wait to see where things go from here. So please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you so much, Huck. It's actually been a really lovely chat with you this morning, and and I'm very happy that I got to share a little bit about our story with you and your listeners.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Stay safe and be well.